And welcome back to Mostly Movies. This is part 2 of our video, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly of 2023. Way too late, I know. But I'm just going to talk to you about 10 movies that I love this year. And remember, lists are relative, they're not absolute. So what I pick as my favorite movie may not be my favorite movie next year, or even in a couple of months, or even in a couple of days. It's all subject to change, but these are 10 movies that I picked out that I liked. Once again, I've got to do this quickly because I got to go into my job soon. So let's go to it. Number 10 is Oppenheimer. Like I said, Sound of Freedom was an interesting story told in a boring way. Oppenheimer is a boring story told in an interesting way. It's fascinating. The structure of this film, which is the most interesting thing about it. The amazing performances, especially by Robert Downey Jr., but everybody does a great job in this film. There are some people I know that have seen it 3-4 times. I watched it once. To me, it's like, your average biopic. I'm not going to go see it again. I mean, I might see it at some point in the future, but I'm not in a big hurry to see it. I love Chris Nolan, and I'm very happy that he won the Academy Award for this film. But, to be quite honest with you, this is not like his best film. It's good. It ranks pretty well, but, to me, people will tell me I didn't like this movie as much as they did because I saw it on digital rather than on the big screen, which is true in a way, but I don't think that ever holds any weight because to me, if a film is great, it'll be just as good in IMAX as it is on an iPhone. But it's definitely worth checking out. Even though it's not Nolan's best, I would definitely check it out. Number 9, this is In Search of Darkness 3, the amazing 80s horror docuseries Search of Darkness continues. And I really like this entry. I thought it was really good. They got into some real deep cuts from the 80s. If you love 80s horror, which is, we can all agree it's probably the best decade for horror movies, this is definitely worth checking out. Number 8 is a sports documentary on Yogi Berra called It Ain't Over. Even as a Mets fan, I can appreciate this intimate look as one of baseball's greatest legends of the Yankees. Most people wouldn't include a documentary like this because it's sort of like the, ESPN, like not a high budget. But what's more important about the budget or how it's prepared or what it's made for, like it might be made for ESPN, but I really felt something watching this film and it really spoke to me on a gut level. And when you watch Yogi Berra return to Yankee Stadium, it not only brings back memories of better baseball, but a better America, an America that I very much miss. And I think it's definitely worth seeing especially if you like sports. And if you're a Yankees fan, it's a must-see. Number 7, this is an interesting movie. This was a late edition that I just saw recently called No Hard Feelings with Jennifer Lawrence. She reveals, among other things, her comedic talents in this really, really funny movie. It has basically the screwball comedy model, almost like a Preston Sturges, but she is very good in this film. She's very funny, she's very sexy, and it's definitely worth seeing. To me, it's like a throwback to that era in comedy from like 2004 to 2008, before everything became sanitized and afraid to offend. But this movie is not afraid to offend. It's not for everybody, but I think No Hard Feelings is a great film. Okay, number 6 is a film called Sisu. I have trouble with real-life war films that are true to life, like Saving Private Ryan or Quiet on the Western Front, even though I appreciate them, or 1917. But I rarely watch them a lot these days. I mean, at the time, I watched Saving Private Ryan a bunch of times, but I have a lot of trouble watching it now because of the real-world violence, and it really seems to affect me a lot more as I get older. Having said that, a film like Inglourious Basterds or Sisu is a film that has this hyper-real, ultra-violent, revenge fantasy, and it's really entertaining. It's a lot of fun to watch this. I prefer, and I always did, I prefer genre to drama. And this film, Sisu, is a wild ride. Definitely check it out. Number 5 this year is a film called The Artifice Girl, which is a great movie, a great little science fiction movie. And basically, the quote that I would confine to this film is from a show called Exo Squad, where a character says humans are great creators, but often unaware of the consequence of their gift. So the story is a computer program uses an AI to catch predators. It poses as a young girl, but it's actually a computer program. And then it starts to take a real emotional toll on the program. The program itself feels affected by all this unpleasantness. It's on Tubi. You could probably find it. I know I saw it on Hoopla as well. This is a really great science fiction movie. It shows you that the best science fiction movies are not about explosions or spaceships flying around, but about good stories and great ideas. Number 4 is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. While the James Bond series has become more serious and depressing and really, really deconstructing what James Bond is, instead of remembering that you're James Bond and you should have a little fun, this is a series, Mission Impossible, that has shined much brighter. There are still stakes, there's still great intensity and a degree of tragedy, but these films are so much fun, especially since Chris McQuarrie started running things. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 was amazing. I cannot wait to see Part 2. Now, number 3 on the list, I'm just scrolling around here. Let's see, where are we? Okay, number 3, here we are. Godzilla -1, minus color. I did not see the color version yet. This was the version that I saw in theaters. I missed the color version, and when they announced they had it in black and white, I had to, by hook or crook, I had to see this movie. And the American Godzilla films have gotten noisier and noisier and bigger, but this strips it all away, makes a small, intimate film that is better than, I can say it's probably one of the best Godzilla movies I've ever seen. Just perfect. And what it has that a lot of American films don't have today, what did I say? Heart and sincerity. This movie has that. Definitely check it out. I can't wait for the Blu-ray to come out. And I will see the color version, but I think I'll always be partial to the black and white one, just because it's such a cool idea. So number 2, my number 2 pick of the best films of the year is probably going to end up becoming number 1, because 1, 2, and 3 were kind of neck and neck. And I couldn't really honestly decide what was the number 1 movie. So I may change this list at some point and move this to the top spot, but it's Across the Spider-Verse. This is an amazing film. The first film was a revolution for those stale comic book films and animated films, but this film goes even further. It enhances the story, like the way Star Wars was enhanced by The Empire Strikes Back. It should have won Best Animated Oscar, but as Madonna said to Kanye West, don't go to award shows for justice. Now, the number 1 film of the year, this is a very controversial pick. Very. But again, and it's not even about the overall quality of the film, it's about what the film says to you, how you relate to the film on a gut level. And I have to go with my number 1 film of last year was The Jesus Revolution. This will not be on most 10 best lists, let alone number 1, but I absolutely love this film. It's basically almost famous for evangelical Christianity. This was a great time in America, in a way, after surviving the 60s, where many people were looking for answers. They tried drugs, free love, all the highs the world had to offer, but then they tried a new path, this small group of people in California. And yeah, it's a bit of a cheesy biopic. It gets some facts wrong, fiddles with times and places, but overall, what really spoke to me was the message of the film. It is a shame that the quote-unquote Christian film that pushed really heavily this year was The Sound of Freedom. And that movie was okay, and it did spotlight a very serious problem, but this should have been the film that Christians went out to see. You know, you can put the bad guys in jail and you can rescue, the children, but at the same time, we should be more concerned about people's hearts changing. Because if you just throw away the bad guys and throw away the key, it's one less bad guy, but there's more bad guys. But if people actually find a way to change their hearts, that's what can really help. Yes, it's great to have the bad guys off the streets, but if you just put them in there, you're going to have more bad guys. St. Paul was once Saul. Not a good man. He persecuted Christians, even to the point of death. But when his heart was changed, the world changed. What good is saving the world if the world doesn't change. We're always so concerned about saving the world, but what are we saving it for? And if we don't save ourselves, how could we ever save the world? That's just something to think about. I mean, I guess I'm biased because I'm a Christian, so I guess I'm biased to enjoy this film. But at the same token, once again, what are we saving the world for? And I think that we need to save the world. We also need to save movies. So hopefully 2024 is a better year than 2023. 2023 is one of the worst years I've ever seen for cinema. Although there are a couple of gems here, like Godzilla Minus One, that it's really the best of times and worst of times, because we're seeing some of the worst movies ever made, some of the most disappointing movies ever made, but yet we get a black and white Godzilla movie in the middle of it that just sets the whole world on fire. Or we get an animated Spider-Man film, we get the Jesus Revolution, we get all kinds of crazy movies happening now. And so that's my list for this year. If you have different ideas, I'd like to talk about it, just, mention it in the comments, and we'll talk soon. And about the Oscars, yes, I'm happy for Nolan. I'm happy for some of the winners. Very happy for Robert Downey Jr. But, Poor Things was one of those movies that I couldn't get through. I just couldn't do it. I gave it about a half hour, 40 minutes, but I was like, nah, this isn't for me. And most of the Oscar movies don't do it for me. The Oscar ceremony was pretty much a waste of time. I just watched it in clips on YouTube. I didn't even watch it. Although my favorite clip was with Michael Keaton squaring off with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, Mr. Freeze and the Penguin. And as I sat there watching it, I said, you know what? Just get Christoph Waltz, put a little goatee on him, make him Ra's al Ghul, let him bring back the Penguin and Mr. Freeze, and have them fight Michael Keaton's Batman again. Now that's a movie I would go and see. All right, we'll be coming back soon with reviews of Ghostbusters, Dune, and a couple of other movies. So this is your host, Dan Siri, last survivor of the Nostromo, signing off.